What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Had to take a little swig of the water, but what's happening? Haven't seen many of you in a while. I probably haven't seen you at all. What's going on? Put a one in the chat. Let me know you guys can hear me. Just put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat. Okay. I'm assuming that you can hear me. And with that said, the reason why we are gathered here today is to talk about what occurred. And happy Friday, by the way. Happy Friday. Um, it's been a very interesting week. Very interesting. The title states, we're going to be discussing what occurred yesterday in Atlanta in Superior Court, and why it is my belief that Young Thug, Gunna, as well as the other 26 defendants might in fact be getting railroaded. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because of what I actually witnessed occur in the courtroom, as well as the uh, the pattern what we all have seen since this case was uh, indicted. And this is important because this is actually one of the biggest, not one of the biggest. It's called a gang Rico gang case. However, because it involves two big names in hip hop appears to be on trial. And while we cannot make light of the fact that there are some serious allegations in the indictment, but we have to also understand that all these defendants are presumed innocent and do have a right to have their day in court. And yesterday was an interesting day because there was a lot of things that came out of the hearing that was in courtroom 8F, Judge Ulysses Glanville's courtroom. Things that were happening that many saw, and there were some things that were happening that very few saw. And we're going to talk about the things that people saw in the courtroom. First and foremost, the prosecution revealed yesterday that they have about 300 witnesses that are planning to testify in January. In January. Not January 2024, but January of 2023. And why is that date important? Or why is that month important? It's important because there are 300 witnesses from the prosecution. We don't even know what witnesses the defense will call. While the government has the burden of proving their case, it's important for the defense to put on a great defense in order for them to yield some type of results for their clients. So that's one thing. The other thing is that we are in the holiday season. We have Thanksgiving that is next week, and then we have Christmas, we have Black Friday, then we have Christmas for those who celebrate that will happen as well. Guys, the reason why I'm wearing my shades today is because the light, I have eye drops in, the lights are bothering my eyes. So I know you want to see the eyes. So I haven't got knocked in the eye or nothing. I wasn't fighting, got knocked in. I'll show it to you real quick. Hi, but I'm good. And I had to wear my shades on in the court yesterday, which I was questioned about why I had shades on, but because of my vision, I must protect my eyes. You know, we had another birthday recently. So, you know, as we get older, we have little issues that we must attend to. But yeah, that's what it is. So not only did we hear about the 300 witnesses, we learned that this trial will take approximately 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months for this trial. Now, in a lot of cases, defendants typically want a speedy trial. in this case, I don't think a speedy trial will be effective for most of the defendants, if not all of them. And again, I'm not making light of what the indictment says, but the indictment is not a conviction. The indictment is there are allegations made by the government against these individuals, defendants, individuals. Now, here's the problem, and this is why it's so important, and I say this so often, that Black media must cover these cases. Why? Because it involves people of color. And we cannot allow those that don't look like us be the sole provider of the news coverage about us. Just think about the logic in that. Just think about the impression that it will have for those that look like us. Why are we so lazy, and this is not everybody, and not wanting to cover stories that are involving us? Not me per se or you per se, but people of color. Mind you, this is a prosecution headed by Madam District Attorney Fonnie Willis, who is an African American woman, and it's being presided over an African American judge, Judge Ulysses Glanville, a very competent judge. But he's a competent judge in his courtroom. But from my perspective, his position on this case has been pro-prosecution, especially in light of the fact that none of the defendants have been given a bond. None of the defendants have been given a bond. You had one defendant that literally came out of jail, served his time for crimes that he's now being accused of committing again under a RICO case. What does that matter? It's because, as his attorney stated in court yesterday during the hearing, is his client might be, in fact, experience double jeopardy. Double jeopardy means you can't be prosecuted for the same crime again. So that's one issue. And these are the motions that have been argued in the court yesterday. Motion to sever. Not only motion to sever, but there are motions where the prosecution has requested the court to excuse the attorney, one of the defense attorneys, from representing one of his clients because they feel it's a conflict of interest. Now, this is the prosecution making this argument to the judge. The same prosecutor who is prosecuting all these defendants, but he's concerned that one particular lawyer representing two clients might not be in the best interest of the person he is prosecuting. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I don't know. Let's see. So the argument was that if one of the two individuals that this lawyer is representing has to testify implicating the other person, that will obviously be a problem for the lawyer to be able to represent them both effectively. And I get that. But then the lawyer essentially responded that, Your Honor, I am the best judge of how these two clients, are going to be defended. Ultimately, the judge decided to remove the lawyer off of one of the defendant's cases. The one who came in last is the one who has now he has to get another attorney. Okay. So this attorney, he's with the public defender's office. He obviously the judge made the ruling. I don't know how that will bode well later on if he decides to appeal that, which I don't think he will appeal that particular issue because he's a court-appointed attorney. and not taking away from anything away from the attorney, but the time, the resources is just not there. This not is not there. So again, why do I think they're going to be this case? Young Doug Gunner, because they're the most high profile in the case, and their case is going to be their case is going to take the lead in these other cases, because apparently Young Doug is accused of being the ringleader of this YSL gang or clique or association. So they have to go hard against him. But here's the problem. Young Thug, as well as Gunner, can afford the best attorneys money can buy. That's not the case for a lot of those other defendants. And most of those defendants are indigent, or they can't afford to have paid a counsel to represent them. So then they too have to get a counsel appointed by public defender's office. Here's the problem with that. The resources available to the district attorney is not available to the public defender's office. There are going to be 300 witnesses testifying, according to the statement made in court by the prosecution yesterday. These witnesses have to be vetted, investigated. Make sure that these witnesses are not there without having the proper, especially the professional experts, the expert witnesses, they still have to be vetted. And how do these witnesses tie into all these different defendants? Because it appears that you have 300 witnesses that will be testifying in this case against all these defendants. Now, it's a lot to connect. It's going to be so much confusion for a jury that likely will not be the peers of these defendants. And when I say the peers, in their age range, because when it was revealed that the trial would last 6 to 9 months, that resonated with me, because I said to myself, what type of person who could sit on a jury trial for 6 to 9 months, working a job, attending school, or living their life? That's a major commitment. So it's obvious that this jury pool will consist of elderly people, retirees. Some may be unemployed. And most won't be listening or have a good understanding of hip hop and the lyrics that are used in making these songs. So that's a major disconnect. So that doesn't lead to a fair and impartial jury, in my opinion. And I talked to several attorneys, and they too agree that it's not likely that they will get a jury seated that will be able to connect with these young men and Young Thug and Gunna. And it's going to be real hard. It's going to be so difficult, especially when most of these defendants don't even have the resources to fight this case. They don't have the resources to fight the case. This trial is literally happening in less than a year with 28 defendants. Sounds like a railroad to me. It sounds like the fast train to the penitentiary. And these lawyers must employ a very rigorous defense. How will they be able to do that in less than 2 months? I don't see that happening. And I'll tell you something else happened yesterday. There was a young attorney who's been practicing law literally 6 months. And he made a motion to the court to be taken off the case and not represent his particular client. And the reason was Once he realized the type of case it is, he said he could not represent that client and give him he could not be effective in representing that client. And I commend him for that, because he didn't just say, I'm going to get the check and I'm going to represent this young man. I can't do it, nor can my partner, because we're not equipped. Because this is a case that is going to require people who understand RICO, understand gang cases, and understand hip hop and lyrics, and how lyrics can be used in a crime to prosecute a case, and why they shouldn't be used to prosecute a case. It's crazy, but it's happening. And I don't see how Young Thug or Gunna or the 26 other individuals will be able to connect with this particular, we don't know the jury yet, but a jury that will look like them, per se. I mean, you're talking gangs and you're talking hip hop. The two are mutually exclusive, but the two, in this instance, are being brought together, and it's going to be to the detriment of Young Thug and Gunna. And here's the other problem. The judge has denied bond for all the defendants on multiple occasions. In most cases, to effectively defend yourself from these charges, you need to be in the street. You need to be able to work. You need to be able to have a job to pay for your legal defense. All that has been removed in this case. As you would ask, if all of them are not charged with murder and it's an individual charged with murder, then why not just prosecute the individual who committed the crime of murder or accused of committing the crime of murder with the evidence that would support that particular crime? Why is the t-shirt maker, the hat maker, now being charged under the RICO statute because he was making t-shirts for this clique? Does that make a lot of sense? Do you believe that all these individuals are gang members? Have we seen the evidence that all these individuals are gang members? Dangerous road that we are on right now. It's a dangerous road. And I think that while here's the other thing that was revealed yesterday, and this is very important. YFN Lucci is being prosecuted at the same time Young Thug and Gunna and the 26 other defendants are being prosecuted in a different courtroom, in the same courthouse. Why is that important? Well, there was some reports that YFN Lucci might have been threatened by somebody in another clique. That hasn't been factually proven, but there's a security concern as well for the courtroom. You have a lot of attorneys, you're going to have a lot of family members, you're going to have a lot of defendants, and the logistics of having all these individuals in a courtroom, and they don't have a courtroom right now that I know of that can hold all these people, because yesterday the courtroom it was pretty packed. You had lawyers in the jury box, you had lawyers in all the rows in the courtroom, and it was just, you had none of the defendants there. None of them were there. They were all on Zoom. So imagine that times 3. because you're going to need a courtroom to hold about 3 times the amount of people that were in the court yesterday. So I don't know where they're going to do it at. They can't do it at an arena because there's security concerns there as well. And when I say security concerns, you know, if they're talking gangs and they're talking murder and they're talking violence, they have to still obviously protect the court. But again, I don't see these defendants able to really fight this case effectively in short window of time. I would think this case would have to go at least another year for them to prepare once they have all the discovery, once they are able to vet the witnesses that are going to testify. The problem with that is you have defendants sitting in jail with no bond, and they just want to get out. They want to find out what the outcome would be, and I get that. And this is why bonds should be given to the people who are the least threat to community, the least. And there has to be evidence to support the dangers of putting them back in the community. It's just what it is. You know, and it's sad, but people still have the right to defend themselves in these serious charges. And they have to have competent attorneys that are not looking to cut deals unless they have in fact actually did it. Because I say only people that take plea deals are people who've committed crimes. But there's a saying that a lot of people take plea deals for convenience, to get out of the see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I get it. What is the light in the end of the tunnel? Because I'm tied to this guy because I like his music. I'm a road manager. It has to be prudent for these individuals to be willing to take these plea deals. Did they do the crime? And if so, what time are they going to be offered? Let me tell you this. Young Thug, Gunna, and the rest of those defendants are facing a life in prison. A life in prison. That's serious. They're facing a life in prison. And to rush the prosecution of these young men without them being fully prepared is dangerous. It's a dangerous situation. If you're facing life in prison, you want to make sure you dot all the I's and cross the T's if you're a defense attorney. And they have to figure a way to get the time that they need. And they have to talk to their clients. Listen, this case is moving too fast. How do we slow this process up? One of the ways to slow the process up is to challenge motions. If they're denied, you have another court of recourse. You have to appeal the motions. I said this earlier on my live. I was covering a case involving El Dorado Red, Manny Chapaya, and this was a case involving the murder of a rapper named Lil Fat. And in that case, there were multiple defendants. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7 defendants in that case. It involved a college basketball player. It involved a former informant for the FBI, Russian mafia guy. I don't know how much alleged Russian mafia guy. It involved a rapper by the name of El Dorado Red. It involved 2 other individuals. And what happened in that case was an attorney by the name of Tanya Miller. She was representing Manny Chapaya, who was the guy accused of being the informant for the government at some point in another case. But she represented him. And there was a motion that she made that was denied by the Superior Court judge. what she did was, instead of accepting it and laid down and accept the ruling, she appealed it to the appeals court in Georgia. I went to that appeals hearing. There was one or two. I think I only went to about two or three appeals hearings in Georgia, but I wanted to see how she was going to argue that ruling, because it was a major ruling. And if I can get her on the show at one time and talk to you guys about that particular ruling, it was ingenious the way she argued her case in front of a panel of judges. It was a panel of judges. I remember one of the judges' name was Namias. He was also the head of before he became a judge, he was the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Georgia, Judge Namias. I think he retired. I don't know if he's still a judge in the Superior Court. But the point I'm making is she argued her case and she won her appeal. And guess what? The guy facing murder was released before the trial was even over. He was a key player, but he beat it. So my point is, these lawyers must have attorneys on a team that know how to fight appeals, or to win appeals, or to be able to file an appeal. Not just file it, but to be able to litigate an appeal before the case is even over with. Because you don't want to wait till the jury convicts and say, well, I could have did that. Well, you can make objections and so forth, but you gotta chop the tree down before you get to the finish line. You got to be able to challenge everything, every motion, as long as the motion have merits to be challenged. You don't take this case laying down. You fight it. So what is a good thing is Gunna, Young Doug have great attorneys. They have great attorneys. And they're the ones that are going to have to convince a jury that their client is innocent. However, the other lawyers cannot wait on the sideline and watch what happens with Doug and Gunna. They have to independently fight the case for their client and get maybe a verdict of acquittal based on testimony during the trial. The direct verdict of acquittal can happen right during the trial. Your Honor, based on the testimony of this witness, we ask you to direct a verdict of acquittal because my client had no association with anybody, and this shouldn't even have to go to a jury because my client is innocent. And based on the witness that testified, we want a directed verdict of acquittal for my client. Those in legal field understand what I'm talking about. So with 28 defendants, you must be able to dot the I's and cross the T's, and you must have a team of competent attorneys and a support team that includes investigators to be able to challenge the evidence and be able to knock on doors, not just knock on doors, interview people. That doesn't happen unless you have a budget. It's unfortunate, but this is how you win cases. The district attorney has seasoned investigators, and the lawyers for these defendants need to have investigators on their team as well to prove the evidence is either weak or it's even able to be admissible. Stand by, guys. Put a 1 in the chat. You can hear me because I'm looking at my internet. Looks like it's going out. Hold on a second, guys. Hold on. All right. Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Just put a 1 in the chat. And this is on my YouTube people. Okay, good. All right. Thank you, guys. I'm looking at my bars going up and down. So what what I'm saying is, unless they have the defendants have all the tools to fight this case, the lawyers, they're not going to win this case. It's just a fact. They're not going to win this case. You got to have people willing to dedicate 6 months. I, as a journalist, cannot cover this case by myself. I need a team of people to cover this case. I'm going to need, and thank you for those who have reached out to me earlier who are willing to work on this story with me that are going to law school. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and I will be using them because this is going to be a lesson for them. They're not lawyers yet, but they're going to law school. So I'm going to have a team of people covering this trial. They're going to consist of lawyers that are going to consult on giving commentary. There are going to be students that are interested in criminal justice. And they're going to be journalists who are aspiring to be out there. This is the biggest case involving members of hip hop ever prosecuted because of the magnitude of who they are. You have a platinum selling artist. You have 2 Grammy nominated artists. You have a culture that is on trial. And it's unfortunate, but this case has to be analyzed for future cases, because if it's not covered the right way, and if it's not defended and prosecuted the right way, we'll be back here again. We'll be back here talking about why people then take this case seriously, and how the people that look like us are basically prosecuting the case. And I have no problem with, I have no problem with a clean, effective prosecution in the level, as long as the level of the playing field is leveled. The scale of justice can't be tilted one way, because if it is, it's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a problem. And for those families that have defendants in this case, and the fans should, not just the fans, the family should demand that all the I's are dotted, T's across. Need to talk to your attorneys. You need to make sure they have all the tools necessary. And if they don't have the tools, the resources, you might need to be out there selling bean pies, fried chicken plates, whatever it takes. Fundraising. Make sure your loved one has the resources to fight the case. You're going to have to. Don't sit back in the cut and assume everything's going to be done right. Excuse me. Make sure that you have competent people that understand the criminal justice system, that are making sure that everyone is doing their job fairly, honestly, and with the best intentions. With the best intentions. But as it stands now, I don't know. This case is being rushed to a jury, and it hasn't even been a year yet. And here's the problem that is obvious to people who understand this criminal justice system is, when you have people that are sitting in jail, not granted a bond, it leads them to make maybe rash decisions for convenience, to get out, to get back to their families. And that's a problem. If it's not nothing to support that there are that particular individuals, each individual is a danger, that should be supported by evidence. And I'll say this. I know the judge said it. I'm not the judge, but I'm going to say this. If you are a fan of the rappers, Gunna and Thug, don't be giving threats to family members and threatening people online and saying the stupidest nonsense to intimidate people. Or the way you can help your loved ones in these two individuals, high-profile individuals in this case, is to make sure you show your support. Show your support. If you got to show up to the courthouse to show your support, that weighs heavy for jurors to see support in the courtroom for their loved ones. If no one's in there showing love by coming to court for their loved ones, then the jury's probably gonna say, he's probably a piece of crap. You know, they don't love him. We don't love him. And we just gonna convict. So the courtroom is for, justice, not just us. And I asked this question yesterday. With all these defendants, what is the rush? What is the rush? I understand the game. People don't think, I know what the game is. I'm not saying this in this case with this judge, but the longer you keep people in jail without an outcome, they are more likely to take a plea for convenience. If these 28 defendants were out working, whatever they were doing to support their families, they're not going to be quick to take a plea. It's the ones who are locked down in these various detention centers across Georgia, because Young Thug is in one jail, and you have Gunna in another jail, and you have the 26 other defendants in other jails. You have people in state prison. The ones in state prison, they're okay because they're doing time. But the ones who don't know what the outcome will be for their case, they may just speak and just say things just to get out, to point a finger at someone else just to get out, to make what time sitting in behind bars will do to those people that are not strong enough to fight this out. No one was meant to be in servitude. But if you do things to put yourself in that arena, it happens. I get it. Once again, put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Just put a 1 in there. Because I see my internet fluctuating up and down. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is play something for you guys. I want to make sure you can hear it. I'm going to play something. This was in the hallway. I want to make sure you can hear this. Thank you, Raleigh. Thank you, Samantha. I want you to hear this, and I might have to unplug No, I'm going to do it like this. Hopefully this will play loud enough for you guys. Can you hear the recording? Can you hear the sound of the lawyer arguing? Can you hear that? Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear that. Let me know so I can continue playing it. I'm gonna play it again. Just tell me, put a one if you can hear it. A double one, because I just said one. Put a double one if you can hear the audio. Okay, so Kim Raleigh can't hear it, so we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna unplug. We're gonna do it again. Here we go. It should be much better. And they come get you a job. How is it like that a real thing? You think the jury gonna convict them once they hear the evidence that he pled to something he already did? This is preposterous. And all these attorneys that anyone got great respect for, they probably making the same argument. So Mr. Murphy should be tried alone. And the jury gonna hear that Mr. Murphy is, I'm gonna say, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you know that Mr. Murphy has already been taken for the crimes he committed. We might be looking at double jeopardy, but how is he a part of a RICO conspiracy? We're not even here. Because the crimes that they allege in the state that is alleged in 2015 that he my client was in prison. My client hasn't made any statements. That's why I haven't filed in the motion to suppress statements. He has nothing to say. So all other attorneys in here, Walter Murphy has nothing to say. We're gonna have our day in court. We're gonna have our day, and we're gonna actually advocate for this judge. I plan on filing a motion. Because this motion, I'm really concerned, and I'm speaking to a lot of lawyers about how he's actually being charged and accused. Because I read the state's response to all the motions. They want to bring up Judge perhaps he already did. And then another thing the state said that he associated with members of YSL. You know, if you notice the ones that are housed in Fulton County, they all have Bible. He has no choice. He would prefer to be at home when they can hear him. He would prefer to be at home and his package job, his warehouse job. And they don't have any jail phone calls. They don't provide any evidence. So I'm sorry for the background audio. Someone was talking. So this involves defendant Walter Murphy. Walter Murphy was doing time in 2015 when the alleged gang activity started. So his attorney, who I believe made a really passionate argument, told the judge, Your Honor, my client was in prison doing time for the crimes that he's being accused of in this indictment. So why is he in a RICO case when he served time? He came out. I believe he got a GED. I believe he did all the things that he was supposed to do as a defendant. Why is he tied to this RICO case after he served time? The same things that he served time for, he's accused of in the indictment, which makes no sense. And he said, Your Honor, there's no statements to suppress from my client because he said he has nothing to say. He didn't do anything. And Jeffrey, Young Thug, is a childhood friend. Should he be prosecuted for associating with a childhood friend? I get it. But he was associating with his childhood friend prior to him being indicted and before he went to jail. But he went to jail for crimes that he's now being charged with again. So I get that. So what I also saw in that very passionate argument, I was hoping the judge would have ruled right there at that moment. And said, okay, this might be a plausible argument, and maybe we should sever his case from everyone else. That didn't happen. What happened was the judge said, okay, I heard you. Now let me hear someone else. So he ultimately listened to all the attorneys who were asking for being severed from the case, the chief case in chief, and said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to not going to sever these cases that, that just have to go to trial. It has to go to trial. He didn't say in that words, but it has to go to trial. Everyone going together. All these defendants are going to trial together. I don't care. He didn't say it like that. I'm just being a little bit dramatic. He basically said, motion denied. So motion is denied, and you have a trial in less than 2 months and 300 witnesses, and expected to last 6 to 9 months, and no way physically possible all these witnesses will be able to be vetted before trial. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. It's going to be a spectacle. While the judge is controlling his courtroom, but we just have to see what happens for that trial starts, the jury is seated. The voir dire, the selection of jury, is the key to this case. It's an important key. It's the foundation of a outcome. You got to pick the right jury. You got to unanimously find. You got to find a jury who can unanimously convict. But if they convict one person in a RICO case, they all get it. It's just insane. It's insane. But it's the system that we have. And I would just say that the denial of bond for individuals who have to take care of their family legitimately just creates more hardship for families. But no one's thinking about that part of this case. I'm only talking about the people who are actually working, doing the honest thing, living an honest life and doing the right thing. That's where it's a problem. I know for a fact, Gunna worked on a movie. Gunna attended the Met Gala. Gunna put out some great records. Gunna was working as an artist, as an entertainer. I worked on the movie that Gunna was in. So I don't know why this person who really wasn't convicted of any crimes is still inside. Let him get back to work to be able to take care of his family. That's, let him get back to work. There's conditions you can set with anybody on bond. You can set conditions. You can put ankle monitors on them. So much you can do as a judge. And Judge Glanville, this is not direct attacking against you, but I'm saying generally there's so much you can do as a judge that you can assure people's attendance back to court. You can admonish people. You can tell people what they cannot do. And meanwhile, they can work to be able to pay for their legal representation. Yes, Dutch was a good movie. Shout out to Manny. Shout out to Terry Woods. It was a great movie. I produced the red carpet for the movie. He and Thug came to the red carpet. Yes. Yes. But let's see how this thing plays out, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're watching this and you're in Atlanta and you're interested in being part of the media team that will be covering this, please shoot an email to news@hiphopinquirer.com. Make sure you ask your favorite blog site that has resources, not the ones that don't, that has resources, to dispatch a team to the courtroom. I'm not doing this for the clicks and views. I'm doing this so you guys can know that or what's happening in the courtroom. But I think it's important for those individuals that are fans of hip hop, fans of the rappers, to make sure everything's done appropriately. And you can see with your eyes. You can see it with your eyes. I'm going to be covering for Hip Hop Inquirer, and I'm also going to be covering from other outlets. But I don't need a monopoly on covering a high-profile case like this. I encourage those to come in. Don't sit on the sideline and talk about the case like you know something about the case and you don't show up in the courtroom. I saw 3 reporters yesterday. Well, I saw 2, including myself. One from the New York Times, the brother George, I forgot what outlet he's with, and myself. I know it's a gang alleged case, but you got to get in the mix. You got to get in the mix if you're talking about doing this. You got to get in the mix. You got to be in the courtroom. You have to. I'm retiring soon. Guess what? I'm retiring soon. That's a breaking news story. I'm retiring soon. Who's going to do it when I leave? Who's going to run around these courthouses covering these cases and bringing it to you? From someone that looks like you. Who's going to be doing this? Because I can tell you one thing for certain. The people of color who work for the major media outlets, they can only report what their editors allow them to report. Because they work for someone else. But you independent journalists, or you like the Hollywood Unlocks, the media takeouts. No, scratch that. No media takeout. The Shade Room, Baller Alert, YBF, Bossa, Revolt TV. And you too, Nori. You said you're a journalist, Nori. Drink Champs. You said you were a journalist when you were talking about interviewing Kanye West. Will you be a journalist and cover this case since you are a product of hip hop? Mr. Nori and EFN, will you guys cover this case? Because you're a member of the hip hop culture. Hot 97, 107.9. Man, I could go down the list of outlets that should be covering this, but I will do my best. I promise you guys, I will do my best. With that said, I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate you guys. I don't know if you have any questions. You can put your poster. If you have a question, post it in the comments section, and I'll go back and answer the questions as I can. I see someone send me a message here. Let's see here. There's a private message. We're not going to answer that one right now. But just watch how this thing's played out. Let's see here. I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm gonna share this link real quick. Hold on. I'm gonna share this link real quick. I'm posting a link here. If you have any questions for me right now, I'm posting I'm on YouTube for those who are looking at this on Twitter, Facebook, etc. I'm posting a link here on my YouTube. If you want to come in and ask a question, I'm posting a link right here. I'm gonna put that link right there, guys. Okay. You can click on either link to join the conversation, If you have any specific questions about this topic, this case, I'm going to try to answer it for you today. So the link is there. You have opportunity to ask your questions. Chris Bridges asked a question. Chris, you can come on the platform, or you can sit in the bushes. He says, and let me go ahead and highlight this here. Chris Bridges says, how is it that they're being railroaded when it was their own lawyers who refused the motion to set the trial for a later date? Are you sure it was all the lawyers? Because some of the defendants don't have attorneys. So if they don't have attorneys, how could they then consent to a speedy trial? So, Chris, I would have to say that you're not correct. You're not correct. And if you have 300 witnesses, which was just revealed yesterday, it wasn't revealed the last hearing. It wasn't revealed in the press conferences. It was revealed yesterday. With that newly discovered information, we must pause to regroup. And that's what the lawyers have to do. That's what they have to do. So, yes, if this goes in January, it's likely going to be a railroad because they're not able to prepare properly for their clients. Just like the prosecution said yesterday, Your Honor, this attorney should not be representing two clients. There's a conflict. There's a bigger conflict. You got 300 witnesses. You got a trial that's going to last 6 to 9 months. You got to give lawyers time to prepare for a defense. And if you have time to prepare for a defense, you are being railroaded. How about that, Chris? Did I answer your question? Ladies and gentlemen, did I answer Chris's question? So, Chris, I would say, I appreciate you getting out the bushes. Oh, I'm sorry, Samantha, I saw that. Okay, I have the link here. You see the link. You can click either link, join the conversation. If you want, pose your questions. And let me see if I missed anyone. Who else want to jump out the bushes? Let me know who else want to jump out these bushes. I'm ready. Come on. Bring it, baby. Bring it. Who else want to jump out the bushes? Okay, let's see here. I'm just looking at some of the questions. I might miss something. Come on, Chris. Put a face to that. Put a face to your. Come on, Chris. You any more questions, Chris? I guess not. All right. All right, guys. With that said, I am going to end the broadcast. Unless you have a question, you pop up in here. I'm about to end the broadcast. Peace and love. Until next time, I'm out.